Halo Combat Evolved Anniversary Skull Locations. On the level Pillar of Autumn, just as soon as you come out of the cryotube, if you go to your right and at the canisters at the back, you'll find your first skull. On the level Halo, just as soon as you come out of the crash shuttle, before you cross the bridge, if you go across to this waterfall right up the back, you're looking for a massive rock in the water. Your skull will be directly behind that. On the level Halo, just after the first set of survivors, you're wanting to head towards this kind of dip in the ground, as if you're continuing through the level. The skull will be on the right side, on the kind of lip that's surrounding this dip in the ground. And the skull will be located right behind these two pine trees. On the level The Truth and Reconciliation, the first time that you enter the hangar bay, the skull is going to be right up the back of the room behind a locked door. You're wanting to head over there first because you only get a couple of chances to be able to get into this room and it has to be opened up by enemies. So right up the back of this room you'll see that there's a locked door behind these kind of canisters. So here you'll see the hunters coming out of the door. Just to the left hand side past them you'll find your skull. On the level The Silent Cartographer, as soon as you drop off the ship, you want to turn to your left and the skull is located on top of this rock. If you go along the left hand side, there's a ramp which you can take, that'll take you right up to the top and the skull's at the very end. On the level The Silent Cartographer, as soon as you're wanting to unlock the security doors to progress through the level, you want to pick up an overshield just before you enter this building. Once you go in here and get to the access switch, you're wanting to turn to your right and the skull will be located above the corridor that you just came through. You will have to grenade jump to get up to this. It's actually easier to judge in classic graphics, but you just chuck a grenade at the edge. The skull will be located at the very end of the corridor roof. On the level Assault on the control room, after your first elevator ride, you're going to come to a room that looks like this. You're wanting to make your way to the middle of the room where there'll be a glass pillar that'll have steam in the inside of it. The skull's located at the top of that, so we're going to have to grenade jump up. So when you reach the glass pillar, you're wanting to go across to the opposite side of the room and where that glass viewing panel is. And you're wanting to grenade jump up to this pillar here that's slightly smaller than the actual vent. And once you grenade jump up, the skull will be sitting right on top of the vent. On the level Assault on the control room, you'll reach this big room with a massive chasm in the middle of it. You're wanting to go to the right, and if you look over the edge, you'll actually see that the skull's sitting on a metal beam sticking out of the wall. On the level 343 Guilty Spark, just as you start the level, if you go to your left and head past this big green tree. You keep getting forward, and you know you'll be going the right way if you see this big rock to the right hand side of you, kind of sitting next to a cliff. You go past that, and there'll be a tree right in the corner, and the skull will be directly behind that. So, if you do get lost at any point, there is another way of finding this skull. If you head towards the main entrance of the building that you have to go into, but instead if you turn all the way around and head towards the back, just past this shade turret, if you look down, you'll see the same tree with the skull just directly behind it. On the level of the library, right at the start, you'll have to follow the monitor through this hallway and you'll see the index in the middle of the room. Instead of going there, you want to turn around and go up this vent. To get up there, you're going to have to grenade jump onto this little pillar. But once you grenade jump up, if you jump over to the vent, the skull will be located right at the back. On the level of the library, right at the end, instead of going towards the left, if you go to your right, and make sure that you hug the right side just to make sure you don't activate the cutscene at the end. The skull's actually located at the opposite side of this room. And when you reach the opposite side, you'll see that the skull's located between these two boxes. On the level 2 betrayals, you're wanting to grab a Banshee from this area where you fight all the wraiths. Once you've grabbed the Banshee, you're wanting to fly all the way back through the canyon. and instead of flying into the actual objective itself, if you fly past that, the skull's actually located on top of the tunnel that you come out of. On the level of the maw, right where you're supposed to get picked up by Foehammer, you're wanting to drive across and park the Warthog at the right hand side next to this beam, because you will need the Warthog to get on top of it. The skull is located right at the end of the beam.